How are you doing, my saucy boys? This is a very important topic today. This is a video where we are going to discuss what's going on with classic physique. Because this year's classic physique Olympia was a stack, but being honest, guys, Chris Bumstead pretty much dwarfed most of the guys. He was looking bigger than them and he was looking much better than them. For example, just take a look at Ramondino. He's already maxed out and bigger, and Chris is still looking much bigger than him. The same happens with Urs Kalczynski. So, realistically, guys, I personally believe that some changes in regards of the body caps are needed. Because Chris Bumstead, for you guys who don't know it, it's 6'1 up to 6'2. So that means that he weighs 240 on stage. Mm, for reference, the other two, Ramon and Urs, weigh 230 on stage. So basically, Chris has like an advantage on both of them for 10 pounds of stage weight, which is going to make him look and stand out much more. For example, the case of Urs, it doesn't matter how good his legs are when he has to strip down, they are going to still look smaller than Chris Bumstead legs. Also, then you have athletes who will look a lot better if their weight cap was bigger. A good example is Neil Curry. How crazy he looks at 240. 240, he's shredded to the bone. He's peeled. But, well, due to the weight restriction, he needs to go down to around 215, 205, which is a very, very low weight in comparison of what he normally can be and how good he can look if he were to be bigger. And I think that he will look even more classic. Something similar happens with Robert Teams, who does not have that like 100% classic look because he's lacking the legs. He needs to have bigger legs with a better sweep to them, overall. So, for example, a guy like him that he's already maxed out, how is he going to improve the legs? I mean, it's not just the potential, it's like retaining certain guys in the division that could do better if they were to stay in the division. Robert Teams is one of them, Neil Curry is another of those guys. But if you are not convinced enough, we have another guy who is also in that mix and that also needs to have a higher wake up, and that's Brion Ansley. Guys, the thing with Brion is that he pretty much loses his legs. He's extremely good in the upper body, but he's not good enough to even challenge Chris. I think that he had the possibility of challenging Chris if he were to have a higher weight cap. That's the reason why he's going to the 212. Because, well, obviously, he's not going to be hindered and he's not going to be needing to drop so much muscle every off season. Also, we have another guy that can sneak himself into the classic physique, which is Rafael Brandao. Guys, realistically, in this photo, he's weighing 240 to 50, and his weight currently is around, if I'm not mistaken, 250, and he's looking really, really classic, guys, but he's not really big enough for the open class. And his body weight, if he were to go to classic, will be like around 215 because he's 5'10 up to 5'11. Yeah, 215. And guys, for example, in this photo, he was like around 240 in the 2019 Arnold Classic. Guys, let's be honest. This type of physique can challenge a Chris Bumstead, can stay toe to toe with any classic guy. And guys, how are you telling me this is not classic enough? I mean, there are a lot of guys that could benefit from this, especially taller guys that does not are like Jamie the Giant, Jamie Yoho. For example, this guy who is not like big enough for the open class but too big for the classic physique class. Because if he trims down too much, he ends up doing lonky. But the judges told him that he needs to be like at least 30 pounds heavier in order to start winning the pro shows, which is crazy to me, guys, because he already looks really good and big, but it's not enough for the open class. So imagine this guy going like against like a Ramondino, Chris Baum said obviously he's not going to weight 290 in classic physique. Maybe it's going to be a lower weight for a guy like Jamie Johal, but still he will have the ability to be in the conversation. And this is my option that I have, guys, is to make it from Lee Haney. Why Lee Haney, guys? Lee Haney used to weight around 255 when he was in contest shape, and some people say like 265, probably 270. To being honest, guys, like around he was probably around 240 to 55 when he was competing, and around probably 270. By the interviews he have done, he said that he was like 250 maxed out already. So Lee Haney was the pinnacle of the classic body. And you know how tall Lee Haney is? Have you ever think about that? I was thinking like about 175, but no, he's 185. He's 5'11 approximately. And guy, he's the epitome of a classic physique. I personally believe that he's the pinnacle of what a classic physique is. Because the golden age was just the start, but the aesthetics, the craziest aesthetics, guys, were on the 80s, guys. I'm telling you, guys, like Samir Banud, like this guy, like Matt Menzer, even Lee Priest, mass with class, guys. And just take a look at this back, guys. You are not going to tell me that this back double bicep looks classic, because it looks really classic. It does not looks remotely as big as he will need to look for an open bodybuilder. In these times, he were around like let's say 250 to 55 at his biggest. But guys, he could be tighter still. So if he were going by the conditioning standards of this era, he probably have had weight like around 250 at his biggest, and normally like 245 to 40. So I personally believe that we should scale the weight mostly based on the look of Ali Haney, because he also had the legs, which the classic physique is striving for so much. That's the reason why Visors did not go in the qualification for a long time. And here you can see, guys, for example, imagine a guy like Rafa Brandao trying to drop like 45, 35 pounds for being able to fit into the weight class. It will be impossible, guys, but still his physique, it's really, really classic. Then think about the health implications that these guys have to go through in order to make the weight, and also the way these classes are being configured. You see, I understand like 7 pounds between one class or another, it's good. But then a jump of 10 pounds, guys, I think that's a little bit overkill. Then it goes down to 8, and then it goes back to 7 again. That's like a little bit too much, to be honest, guys. Like 10 pounds of muscle is a lot, and it's really, really noticeable on stage. So obviously, I think about a solution. I am not going to be here just telling you, oh yeah, this needs to change, this needs to be changed, but not proponing any solutions. And I really have one, to be honest with you guys. I want to present it. Obviously, what I did was to take this, the 511 to 6, which is 222, and scale it to what bodybuilders might be doing in classic, which let's say that it's leaner than Lehaney. Lehaney leaner at our standard, it will be like 240 on stage, around 18 pounds more than what the weight is. So this will be the chart, guys, and we will be looking to a very different scenario. For example, a guy like Lehaney, 5'11 to 6, they will be waiting to 40 and they will be looking awesome. A guy like Ramon or like Urs will have still 16 pounds of room to work with. And the difference between the 6 to 6'1 and the 6'1 to 6'2, which is the two categories where Chris Bumstead and these other guys that are chasing him are in between, is not that crazy. It's not 10 pounds anymore. I just did it for 6 because, like, 10 pounds is a lot, guys. I think that 10 pounds is a little bit of overkill there. For example, for a guy like Brian, who is 170 or 5'7, he will be 207. He have always say that he looks his best like around 15, 20 pounds bigger than what he is on the stage. So you can just imagine, guys. And that's the why he's switching to 212 again. You can just think about all the good things that can come outside of this or from this. For example, can have a guy like Terence Ruffin, if I'm not mistaken, he's in the over 5'5 to 5'6. He could weigh up to 200 pounds, much more than what he is currently weighing. He missed by 1 pound. So he's already at his capped weight. He's already at his peak. Obviously, we could argue that he could lose some pounds because he was still not 100% in shape. But guys, being honest, they don't have a lot of room to improve. And the physiques, yeah, they are crazy good, but they could be better in my opinion. As I explained you with some other guys and with their examples, they could look a lot better and they could hit their true potential with a little bit of a higher weight class, guys. For example, you have a guy like Chris Bumstead, he could be 12 pounds bigger. He's already big and he could be 12 pounds bigger. You could argue that for Chris Bumstead, I could use like another pound, like instead of 2 to 52 to 53, but well, that's up to you guys. For example, a guy like Rafa, he would be able to make the cut if you ask me. He 233 was around more or less what he was waiting in that show when in the Arnold Classic, which was one of his best showings. So realistically, guys, I personally believe that these type of changes will be great. It will be a great difference for a guy like Neil Curry coming down from 240 to 233. He will not need to lose that much muscle and he probably will stay in classic physique. And then you have, for example, a guy like Jamie Christian who is like 6'6. He will be weighing 282. Guys, for example, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, he's like 6'6 or 6'5. In both of them, he will not need to drop that much muscle. Currently, if I'm not mistaken, he will be in the need of dropping like 20 pounds, something crazy like that. Like, he will need to be like around to 70 in order for him to be able to make the weight, which is insane. He will need to wait to 70, and if these were to be like the weight classes, he will have like 12 more pounds and he will look much better. But guys, what do you think?